And in her research, she looks at women's everyday fashion practices and tastes, as well as their body and beauty ideals. She's written a monograph called Classifying Fashion, Fashioning Class, published by Routledge just last year. And her research more recently is about the role that celebrity and social media play in shifting discourses around curvaceous bodies, fat bodies, and body positivity. And she's particularly interested in that notion and that phrase, the slim thick. So I'm going to hand over to Katherine, and I'll see you all soon.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, I shall share my screen. Shall I turn my video off? There we go. Okay, so yeah, this paper is a bit of a work in progress, but I'm interested in looking at SKIMS and yeah, unpacking some of the contradictions in Kim's body positive shapewear solutions. So, okay, so in 2019, Kim Kardashian established her fashion label SKIMS, described as a solutions-orientated brand, offering, quote, shapewear solutions for everybody. The label carries a range of underwear, loungewear, and shapewear, which includes bodysuits, cycling shorts, and a maternity range. And in its first year, the brand launched 32 collections, and despite the pandemic, it's achieved an estimated net worth of 1.6 billion within its first 2 years, so it seems to be doing all right. Notably, the marketing for the brand is heavy on the notion of body positivity, as SKIMS seeks to revolutionise the underwear industry, normalising shapewear for a younger audience and empowering women to celebrate their curves. Talking to Vogue magazine, Kim stated that diversity and inclusivity are in our brand DNA, and this is certainly reflected in the brand's marketing, which emphasises the sizing, which ranges from a extra small to 4XL, and it's 9 skin tone colorways. There we go. Their advertising campaigns have included older women, women of colour, and plus size models. The launch in Normstorm's New York flagship store is a casing example of that. And their video releases for the launch campaign included people such as Kirsten Sinclair, Precious Lee, Alice Marie Johnson, Roxy Reed. It was interesting looking at those videos to think about how those women also sort of look to represent the various sort of other aspects of Kim's persona. But across their most recent social media, diversity in terms of body shape isn't maybe as prominent as it was. And while SKIMS sets out to celebrate everybody and empower the woman who wears it, there appears to be some important contradictions in their messaging, which suggests that some bodies are less than perfect. As several academics note, the body positive movement itself isn't without complications, and situated alongside terms such as inclusivity, it is increasingly taking a commercial turn. Though SKIMS has featured models with a wide range of body shapes and skin tones, SKIMS focus on the idea of solutions wear, which contours, controls, and lifts the body, seems at odds with the body positive approach. Rather, the brand appears to fit more neatly within the framework of glamour labour or makeover culture, encouraging women to transform their bodies with the use of shapewear as they seek to achieve an unrealistic and largely unobtainable idea embodied by Kim herself. Indeed, while the SKIMS range may have breadth in terms of sizing and skin colour, and in this sense appears more inclusive, it can also be read as another example of a commercial venture which capitalises on the idea that women can be empowered through consumption and achieve perfection through technologies of the self, as it encourages women to invest in solutions wear to create the body shape that they aspire to. Over the past decade, actually, the Kardashians have played a key role in cultivating this new body image standard that celebrates an exaggerated hourglass shape. Heard a bit about that this morning, actually. Wissinger describes it as both voluptuous and skinny. Kim epitomises the slim, thick look, which requires a full bottom, hips, thighs, and ample bosom, but also dictates that you have a very small waist and flat stomach. And this is a body that Kim herself has repeatedly stated you have to work for and work hard for. And alongside her reality TV show, she's made a business out of demonstrating the various products and procedures she claims to have used to make herself beautiful, including waist trainers and detox tea. Oh, sorry, these are some of the more recent images from the brand. And then these are some of the things that she's been involved in. So I guess what I plan to do here is unpack some of the contradictions which exist in terms of the SKIMS body positive sort of inclusive imagery, and consider how SKIMS embodies more of the glamour labour and how these shapewear solutions encourage women to transform their bodies, which seems to conflict with the idea of inclusivity and body acceptance. And I guess I question really whether SKIMS inclusive marketing is enough in the sense that it includes a range of body shapes and sizes. I wonder as well whether in doing that, really what it looks to do is elevate and amplify the beauty ideal embodied by Kim, situating her as this aspiration and encouraging audiences to engage in a social comparison, which is much more likely to result in a sense of body dissatisfaction rather than any form of body acceptance. So at the first Kimposium, Elizabeth Wissinger argued that the Kardashians were on the front line of glamour labour, wearing their bodies in a way that they would have once worn fashion. In the regime of the blink, where individuals increasingly perform and interact with each other through online images, and where fashion no longer offers clear distinctions in terms of class, taste and status, bodies, Wissinger argues, are the new couture, and there's mounting pressure on women to work on their bodies to achieve unrealistic beauty ideals. Similarly, Lee and Bao and Tigerman argue that the rise of the internet and celebrity culture has played an important role in women's beauty aspirations and body image dissatisfaction. Celebrities' enviable physiques are served up as inspiration to model and imitate, while stars and personalities detail via social media the various techniques that they've used to achieve their look. And as Meredith Jones suggests in 2016's work, underpinning these images is a neoliberal post-feminist rationale that frames beauty and legitimacy as the result of individual choice, and which Ros Gild and Shani Allgard talk to suggest sort of overlooks the structural barriers that women face in achieving success. Rather, the prevailing discourse demands that women engage in a continual process of renovation, restoration, maintenance and improvement. And it claims that in realising a body like Kim Kardashian is possible through the right consumer choices, the necessary body work in terms of exercise, diet, beauty regimes, and cosmetic surgery. And within this makeover culture, Kim is the key player with over 250 million Instagram followers. She thanked her Instagram followers just this week, I think, for raising it to 250 million. She's regularly displaying her life, her family, and most of all her body via social media. Keen to maintain her air of authenticity, she openly documented the various sort of weight loss supplements she's used, cellulite treatments, workouts, and perhaps most significantly, waist trainers and shapewear. This candid approach to cultivating her celebrity body has generated a vast audience, which in turn has helped her develop and expand her KKW beauty brand, but arguably set the perfect feeding ground for the launch of SKIMS. Interestingly, it's her use of shapewear, oh, hang on, there we go, sorry. Her use of shapewear alludes to the fact that her body shape that she presents is largely unattainable, certainly without some sort of like intervention or physical restriction on the body. Throughout her career, the wearing of shapewear has been well documented, both in her own social media and popular press. Kim and her sisters received criticism for encouraging unrealistic and dangerous body ideals and beauty practices when they endorsed waist trainers or waist cinchers. A product which is actually now carried by the SKIMS brand, and which claims sort of amazing results because it's going to slim and sculpt your waist. Across the fashion press and news media, comparisons were made with Victorian corsets, although McKnight argues that really the waist trainer is much closer to earlier shapewear in the form of girdles or Spanx. But it was arguably Kim's costume for the Met Gala in 2019, which brought greatest criticism or really intensified media interest in her use of shapewear to create an extreme silhouette. Dressed in a latex mesh and corseted bodysuit designed by Terry Mugler and Mr. Powell, her outfit was described by some as punishing, demanding an impossibly tiny waist achieved through a painfully fitting corset, which according to Kim, left her with indentations on her back and her stomach. In season 17, episode 5 of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, audience could see Kim preparing for the event and discussing how painful and impractical the garment was, preventing her from even going to the bathroom. I don't know whether anyone watched this episode, but she talks about how her sisters are going to have to help her and sort of clean her up if she needs to go to the bathroom. And in the episode, she's also featured in the shapewear she wore underneath the dress, the image on the right, which really is the thing that created the foundational body shape for their outfit, and which many have suggested was sort of the trial for SKIMS. So after some initial controversy over the name of the shapewear brand, Kim Kardashian launched SKIMS then in 2019 after the Met Gala appearance. The brand claimed to provide solutions for everybody through the technically constructed shapewear that enhance your curves, but is comfortable enough to wear every day, maybe not like their Met Gala outfit. Indeed, the SKIMS messaging seems to suggest that shapewear offers you a day-to-day solution for ordinary women, contouring their body, enabling women to achieve their desired shape. And in initial press interviews, Kim described how she too had used shapewear to achieve her look, customizing existing garments to create the shape and color that she wanted, dyeing them with tea bags and so on. And so she had to launch her own brand to provide her and other women with a much more flexible, comfortable and inclusive garment. So, as some of the commentary around Kim's use of waist trainers sort of indicated, perceptions of shapewear are mixed. Zanetti and Scaraboto argue that shapewear presents something of a dichotomy because it operates as this example of constructed femininity on the one hand and then flexible feminism on the other. They quote, constructed undergarments that compress or enhance body parts through moulding, squeezing and containing the body. Shapewear can be understood as a product which restricts women's movements and imposes physical and symbolic constraints on the female body. And yet at the same time, it can be viewed as an example of flexible feminism, promoting female empowerment by making women feel good about their bodies and enabling them to perform gender and sexuality confidently. Indeed, shapewear is often couched in this body positive messaging for this very reason, because it can be perceived as a way of feeling good about oneself, boosting your self-esteem and your belief in your public performance. And certainly marketing for contemporary shapewear products has sought to emphasize this understanding, advertising shapewear as a way of being a better version of oneself. So really it comes as little surprise that SKIMS has also employed this discourse with a range of products that enable women to celebrate their bodies with true solutions all day, every day, to make them look and feel their best. Within academic circles and fat acceptance and body positive movements, however, there's an increasing frustration over the growing endorsement of shapewear as a tool for modifying the body in order to achieve a greater degree of sexiness. As Litmus argues, there's a serious concern across the movement that body positivity is being taken away by brands and inauthentic celebrities, although she doesn't link him specifically, who use it as a catchphrase to invoke a positive image with consumers to promote their products. Instead of celebrating women's bodies as they are, these brands continue to emphasize the actions and interventions that women can make to transform or improve their appearance. And attention is focused on the body parts which are flawed or need resolving. Indeed, it's this idea that women need to find solutions to their bodily flaws, which is central to the SKIMS branding. And while SKIMS and other brands may use many plus-size models in their advertising, the products themselves seem to place emphasis on a flattering figure or shaping it in some way, sort of elevating and reproducing ideas of thinness, contradicting in many ways the origins of the body positive movement. But really, body positivity is fairly recent, and some have suggested that it's maybe better termed a collective because in some senses it's far from unified, but it has this ideology which is mobilized by fashionistas and Black feminist groups and has really emerged sort of online across various body positive websites and social media postings. There's a real strong fat positive agenda, and body positive language and ethos has helped being developed from that fat acceptance and fat positive movement, feminist communities and sexual liberation groups, whose central ethos concerning sort of body acceptance is about challenging the thin ideal and fat stigma. And one way of doing this is to provide greater representation of all body shapes and to reveal and expose the body and its flaws. Indeed, focus on representation of the body has become a crucial part of body positivity, and even more so because it's operating so heavily online in what is an image-obsessed environment. So in that sense, I guess SKIMS does fulfill that element. Through a more diverse representation of body positive bloggers and activists aim to transgress normative beauty standards and expectations, to reject unobtainable, narrowly defined beauty ideals, and to develop a more inclusive understanding of what's attractive. So emphasis is placed on authenticity and exposure. But across body positive media, there are two sort of contradictory messages as well. For although they may represent non-normative bodies, the individuals pictured often subscribe to other beauty standards. They have clear glowing skin, shiny hair, white teeth. Authors such as Emma Luck are sceptical as to whether using plus-size models is enough for an image to qualify as promoting body positivity. And equally, she questions whether the objectification and sexualization of women can be considered empowering. Ultimately, she suggests that the mainstream body positive movement tends to serve the same beauty standards as they attempt to resist. And more, it seems that body positivity is being used as a slogan to serve corporate interests and to raise celebrity profiles. In exploring SKIMS branding and advertising, these arguments certainly appear to have relevance. While the brand in its first launch campaign did look to include women with an array of body shapes who state in their videos that they're not conventionally beautiful, these models, celebrities and other well-known career women are shot in flattering light with flawless makeup and hair. Much more recently, fewer and fewer plus-size models are featured in SKIMS social media posts, and most of the models are in much more traditional shape. They're slim, toned, glossy, hairless, focused on their torso and shapely bottom. So much so, in fact, that several of the images don't even include headshots at all, and the model's face may be obscured with flowers and so on, or they may have their back to the camera, attention placed on their sort of curvy bottom. And littered amongst these anonymous images are pictures of Kim and the Kardashian sisters wearing various collections from the SKIMS brand, while on holiday, lazing around the pool, their bodies toned with curves in all the right places. According to Brown and Tigerman, it's social media images of this type and the constant presentation of celebrities which reinforce unrealistic beauty ideals as women are drawn to compare and evaluate their bodies against these images. They feel increasingly negative about themselves and their bodies, and they're unable to achieve these beauty and body aspirations. What's interesting, I guess, about Brown and Tigerman's argument is it not only seems relevant in terms of more recent images, which maybe include fewer plus-size models, but it's actually true in relation to those images from early campaigns or launches, which did feature many more plus-size models. So this is an image of the Normstorm launch, and this is on the right-hand side, one of the first advertising images for SKIMS. Because although they include a more diverse array of body shapes, more often than not, Kim is featured centre stage, mannequin pose, staring blankly at the camera. And as a result, it's her silhouette that's amplified and elevated and really set in contrast to the less than ideal body types which surround her. As Berger's work suggests, the advertising persuades the audience that a transformation is possible. And by situating Kim as the focal point, as the one who's been transformed, there's this comparison which is made with the bodies that surround her. She is the body which is most enviable, the most glamorous, made glamorous by the product. And the audience is invited to imagine what she will become as she buys the product, how she too can be transformed and become enviable. In Wissinger's paper from 2016, she poses the question, is inclusivity a sham? And perhaps, I wonder, in respect of SKIMS, it is. In some senses, it might be seen as inclusive in the sense that it encourages all women to look a certain way or to have the same goal or aspiration, or that we should all be working to be transformed. Perhaps it is inclusive in the sense that it is willing to expose and reveal bodies which aren't conventionally beautiful. But at the same time, the messaging sort of invokes, the messaging that these images invoke doesn't sit neatly with the idea that all bodies are equal. And instead, it seems that bodies are set in contrast to one another, with the audience and Kim as the ultimate victor.
Thank you so much for that extremely nuanced, close reading of the product, you know, the event, product, process that is SKIMS. Really, really fascinating. I'm sure people are itching with questions. So we're going to move on to our next speaker and come to questions at the end, as I said earlier. The title is Fashions or the Weak Point of the Kardashian Matriarchy. And I'll just say a little bit about Manon. She's a journalist and a doctoral student at the Sorbonne. She's working on the influence of the media in the popular turn of Parisian fashion. And prior to this PhD, Manon was working or finished a thesis on the media coverage of the Kardashians in France and the culture of Schauenpfund perpetuated. I hope that I've pronounced that correctly. I probably have not.
Thanks a lot for the presentation. I will share my screen. Oh, these images, we've seen these images this morning. So thanks a lot for having me here. I hope it's going to be okay and my English is understandable. It's communication about the link of the fashion between femininity, fashion, and I'm exploring the construction of gender through fashioning and dressing. And also I will discuss about how the Kardashian sisters with a viral system of business system, which is based on Instagram, or maybe changing the rules of fashion. Excuse me. So here we have the main idea of this communication today is that the relationship that the Kardashians have to fashion is very, very ambivalent, because the Kardashians do not seem to respond to the standards set by the Parisian fashion or the couture or the high fashion, as we said in English, or in France, just la mode as modernity things. They seem to be actually rejected from this world. I go back to the commentaire that when Kim Kardashian was on the cover of Vogue, all the commentary against this cover, which seems to be very relevant. So they seems to be rejected from the fashion world, but in the same time, as we just have seen, they seems to have a big business with clothing, with makeup. So it's interesting to ask if the Kardashian Matriarchy have founded their own fashion system with autonomous codes, with codes of beauty that are not the Parisian code of beauty. That's the aim of this communication. My idea is that they not follow the temporalities of fashion that is set by the Parisian creative scene, but they're choosing accessibility rather than exclusivity that defines the world of luxury, and they impose new standards of beauty, registers, and rhythm in fashion. So the aim of this paper is to ask to what extent does the matriarchy manage to negotiate fashion norms and impose new rules, and are the Kardashian or a new fashion system with their own rules, their own codes, and their own standards. For beginning, of course, I have to go back to the definition of fashion in high fashion for being very clear and very precise. For that, I hope that's okay with my screen. I go back to the definition of fashion as European modernity. It's here we have a definition of Daniel Gilbert with his geographist work on the fashion. And you can say that fashion is dictated by the fashion week, the fashion capital, so Paris, New York, Milan, is a direct expression of Western capitalist, a system which is part of ongoing process of outsourcing and globalization, etc., etc. Which what is important here is that we have artistic control over fashion. And why is it interesting when we talk about Kardashian? If Kardashian are not in the fashion system right now, in fashion luxury, it's because of Kanye West. So of course we have to look at the duo Kim and Kanye West, and we see that it's not something progressive in terms of the matriarchy and feminism and so on, because you have this duo that is linked to the artist and his oeuvre d'art. So you have Kanye West like dominant and Kim as the object. I go back to that. And I'm lost in my note. Yes, I ask myself, to begin this reflection, I ask myself the question of the symbolic value adapted by Kim and Kanye in terms of gender in the fashion field. The main axis is that the Kardashian matriarchy fails to impose its value and its narrative of feminism in the field of high fashion. It's governed, and high fashion is governed by a partition of gender and taste that it has been forged during the 19th century. I go back to this here, maybe. Yes, you have that idea that historically in fashion, women are only the consumers or the people that you are dressing. They are not the artist. The artist is a realm that is belonging to the man and not to the woman. And with the case of Kim and Kanye, you go back to this very old narrative about fashion with the man as the artist and the woman as the object of the art. But the exploration of Kim and Kanye together is very interesting. I go back to this because it happened last night and it's very interesting. It's the Met Ball and you have Kim and maybe Kanye, we don't know yet, and that's very interesting, that are together at this ball. What is interesting in this photo is that Kim is here with her long hair in total look Balenciaga haute couture. And maybe it's Kanye, maybe we don't know if it's Kanye of the creator of this outfit by Balenciaga, that is Demna Gvasalia, but he's looking at her from beyond, you know, like, okay, he is the artist and she's the things, she's the piece of art that is here. A year ago, at the 2019 Met Gala, you have Kanye, which was here with Kim. And you can say that the theme was camp. So it's all about theatrality and being outrageous. But here you have Kanye just in total look black behind her, and like is not in the is here, but behind her and among her, she's the object that is showing here. I don't know if it's very clear, but what is really interesting is the media coverage about the Donda event that take place on 26 August. And you have here Kim in Balenciaga haute couture again. And a few weeks earlier, she was wearing Rico Wens, which is like a niche fashion. Only people with fashion knowledge know Rico Wens. And she has a total look Rico Wens here with her sister Chloe. And of course, it is in a context when she came here for Kanye West. And what is very interesting is the media coverage, because Kim plus Kenny have transcend of the category of media. They are in People media magazine because with a coverage that is more interest about the divorce and so on. But they're also in Paper magazine or Vogue, of course. And actually, Kim Kardashian is not in Vogue. She's in Vogue when she's with Kanye West. So that's what is interesting. And Kanye West is maybe in People magazine, but he's more and more in People magazine when if he is with Kim. So what I want to say here more simply is that together they bring a large audience and they go beyond the audience of fashion or audience of People magazine, and a lot of people are talking about them on Instagram. So it's the idea of breaking the internet. And of course, they made a joke about that, and they're aware of that, and they are playing with that. They know that if she's coming in a Balenciaga wedding dress, a lot of people don't care about Balenciaga. Vogue will talk about Balenciaga, couture, high fashion, because Kim Kardashian is not relevant enough, but we have to talk about what is couture and the dream of couture. But in People magazine, you only talk about the divorce, the marriage, and things like that. So together they bring two different kinds of audience, and together they reach a larger audience. But you can say that this audience, this fashion audience, Kim have this fashion audience because of Kenny. And that's here that you have something that is very old narrative of the man, which is the creator, and the woman, which is the creature, which is very old. And here you have the weak point of the Kardashian. Kim, yes, you can say that with all the, so about artists and masculinity in fashion, I put here, and I'm sorry for the, I put here some sentence. I take that in a book of Adam Gexy, who go back to the origin of the creator as a man. And he talk about Charles Frederick Worth. So Charles Frederick Worth treated him as a very top fashion dictator. And what is interesting is that the figure of the man who is choosing the clothes, it was linked to the fact that fashion, for being recognized as something legitimate, have to be linked to the art world. If you're not linked to the art world, you're mainstream, and you're just like fast fashion, something that is not very interesting. So you have this idea of fashion, elevating fashion through the art that is very present in the fashion discourse. You have this with Paul Poiret, and you have this after with Jack Pfaff. I put here, fashion is an art, art is creative, and men are the creators. So you have this with Kim and Kenny. It begins in 2012 when Kim and Kenny made their relationship public. And you have this episode, I think everybody is familiar with this episode of the Kardashian, when Kenny go in the Kim's wardrobe and decide to throw away a lot of things. And it was a funny moment, not a moment when you say, oh, Kim, she really has good taste. No, she's like humiliating in this scene. So it's very interesting. You have this that is always put in the media. I took here an example. He encouraged her to embrace minimalism. And she said, before I used to always think more is more, and I used to accessorize and wear bracelets and earrings and necklace. I used to do it all. She said, now I definitely understand how much cooler it is to be a little bit simpler. You have a lot of examples like this. I put some other example with the tiny glasses. She has to wear tiny glasses because she can't think of this by herself. It's Kenny who is telling her that. But what is very interesting is that they show this in the public. They don't act. They put this in the display. The fact that she is being naive and things like that. Yes, he encouraged her to the no makeup trends because she was wearing too much makeup. You have this example of her at the show Balenciaga again with no makeup, and everybody was saying, oh, it's Kenny who is behind this. And of course, she reached another public with Kenny. Vogue, here you have her in total look Balmain. It was the first time she was wearing high fashion at a public event here, the Festival of Cannes. And of course, her Givenchy dress as she was pregnant with North at the Met Ball. You have a lot of declaration of Kim which are very interesting to analyze, and always she put Kenny as the creator of her look, and it's Kenny who is choosing how she dressed and how she looked. You can say that this sentence very interesting about how the fashion world is very let's say was very I don't have my notes, that's horrible. It's not very cool with her because she's a woman, I think because she's not in the standard classic standard of beauty. She's not that white. She's not belonging to a rich family. She's not a part of a classical elite. She's a nouveau riche. She's not a classical elite, and she's not belonging to the fashion world because of all these things. And she's constantly humiliating by this world, especially when she's not with Kenny. I'm not very aware of the time. I go further. So she have a place in the fashion world because of Kenny, and her sisters too. And right now she's like the girl who is who has the fashion taste. I think it's very funny. Kim Kardashian disgusted with Kourtney and Khloé Japan outfits. It's actually embarrassing. She's embarrassed of her own sisters because they don't have the fashion codes. And that's what is interesting with all the sisters Kardashian, because you have Khloé with good Americans who is not doing fashion, but only a kind of shapewear too. You have Kourtney, which is with Push, with like a lifestyle thing that is very old things like that you do in luxury. And so you can say that not all the sisters have gained fashion credibility. You can say that with when you look at who is at the Met Gala. Khloé and Kourtney are not invited, but you have the Jenner who are invited. You have the case of Kendall, which is of course a particular case in fashion because she is known as a model, and that's another thing. And you have Kylie, which is known because of cosmetics, so it's not the high fashion realm, but she has a lot of power, and she has the Instagram power. And that's what is interesting. I put just another picture which show Kim that is very embarrassing because she was going to Balmain fashion show, and so high fashion realm, and you can say that it's a very embarrassing moment, and she's not showing in a way that is very flattering. It's only to make the audience laugh. So yes, but maybe you have all these things, but I'm going to conclude very rapidly because I just, it's not very clear what I'm saying. But with the creation in the second half of the 20th century of new technology and the proliferation of digital platforms such as internet, fashion has changed. And right now, what is very, what we have to talk about is the influence of this celebrity on fashion and the new reorganization of the fashion world. In the world where Paris is no more the only capital of fashion and no more the only fashion system. I put the fact that Kim right now do make the cover of Vogue by her own. It's not the same that here when she was with Kenny, of course, that's a plus, but of course she's taking a lot of criticism. But the first one who talk about Kim Kardashian and a new fashion system that is more linked to celebrity was Olivier Roustan. He was showing the importance of celebrity in the new fashion systems. And of course you have a lot of scholars who work on that, on the link between celebrity system and fashion system. For example, Pamela Gibson did a lot of research about that. And for her, she's showing that since the 90s, you have to watch to the two systems for understanding how the fashion is changing. And celebrities are not only ambassadors of fashion, they are media industry by themselves. They have a large audience. They can entertain the people during hour and hour. I put this and I'm gonna finish with this because I see the time is running. I will finish with Marta Martina and Silvia Vakira, who were reading a paper about this new system of celebrity, which each is more linked to Instagram and the new world. And I let you with this. You can say that celebrity in transforming the logic of fashion cultural production breaks the notion of fashion as a domain of a few elite power brokers. Deconstructing traditional power structure and views on status, gender, class, race, and age, with the paradoxical result of exposing the fashion system itself as an artifice and therefore subject to endless reinvention. You can say that right now fashion is not belonging, the time of fashion is not the same as it was before. It's running by Instagram and new technology. It's a continuous renewal, and that the celebrity are much aware of that fashion system and fashion brand. So it's interesting to see that matriarchy maybe function as a business that is more aware of the fashion time, but as a person, the Kardashian as a business, Kardashian have maybe win somewhere, but as a person, the Kardashian fashion knowledge is still not highly valued, and all is related to Kenny own knowledge. And you can say that men in the Kardashian, I'm not talking about Rob, but you can talk also about Travis Scott, which is apart from the main narrative of the Kardashian, and have this fashion knowledge. And he just made a fashion collaboration with Dior, but you can never say that Kylie Jenner was there and she's not with him in this kind of event. So you can say that you have still this fashion knowledge is not for the Kardashian, and I'll stop here, sorry.
That was great. Thank you, Manon. So many ideas there. I think you could have spoken for hours. So well done. Lots and lots of ideas. Seb, I think Manon's screen is pinned. Perfect. Okay. All right. Well, I'm sure there are lots of questions for these two papers. I certainly have some. Please feel free to put your hand up if you have a question, or to pop it in the chat. I'm looking out now for anything there yet. Not yet. Okay, so my question kind of links the two papers. So, Katherine, while you were presenting, I was thinking, what are SKIMS for, right? So they don't actually make you thinner, right? That all of your body mass is still there. It's just displaced, right? It's just moved about. But what they do is they make us appear very smooth, right? So maybe that's something to think about, this smoothness, that it's not, we know that slim thick means it's not about being thin anymore. And indeed we see with the latest model that Kim's using, the latest celebrity model, Kate Moss, you know, you're muted, by the way, Katherine. We see that, you know, it's not about that. It's about making smooth, I think. That's at least one of its purposes. And then I want to link that to, Manon, what you were saying about the black Balenciaga outfit we all saw last night, which appeared to me like a silhouette, you know, like one of those shadow puppets. And a silhouette, of course, has no depth, right? It's two dimensionals. Maybe it's slightly less than 2 dimensions even, and you couldn't get anything smoother. So I wonder if both of you can talk about that smoothness and that way we seem to be moving towards a version of beauty that has in some ways less than 3 dimensions. I'm sorry, it's a hard question, but hey, nobody else asked one, so come on.
Like, it's interesting what you say about the shapewear doesn't make you slimmer, because it doesn't, although it might make you think that you look slimmer, even though it doesn't. Yeah, so I think that it is about the smoothness. It's about the curve, isn't it? Yeah, you're right. It's like the silhouette. It creates that. Although for the woman who's wearing it, it might make them feel as if they are slimmer, even though they're not. Does that make any sense? But also, I'm thinking that so what you say about the 2-dimension and the smoothness. I guess it's like that made me think of like filtering on, you know, on Instagram and so on, that all the time you're looking for that sort of sleek curve. And maybe that is much more possible in the 2-dimension. And when you're so caught up in that, when you know, you're so driven by how your image is in this format, you know, that's all you need. Maybe that is the solution.
And there was something there on one of the slides you showed about it allowing you to feel sculpted.
Yes, she said that. She says, oh, you know, it makes me feel snatched. It makes me feel like sort of, yes, tighter, or yeah. But
that word sculpted really, I thought, really related to Manon's points about the woman as a, you know, we're almost talking Pygmalion myth here, the woman being sculpted, although this is herself sculpting herself, and then Kanye lays the top layer over. Yeah.
Yes, what I think is very interesting, I don't know if it's, oh, cool.
Go ahead, we can hear you.
Yes. Okay, what I think is very interesting is that it's very Instagram lead. You have to have something that is very, okay, it's not movies for Instagram, but what is interesting is not only skinny body as it was like 20 years ago. Right now, you can have a body with shape, but it's like the skinny body, it do not move. So it's what is very, very interesting, and you can show and make beautiful images with that. But it's the same thing with body positive movement. All the model that are choosing, because they have a slim face, but they have some things that the body is okay and it can be good on the photo. But if it's only in 2D motion things. That's very interesting, in fact, yes.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, we've got a question from a hand up from Maggie.
Hi, I just wanted to add to the discussion. Wait, am I?
You're right.
Am I now unmuted?
No, you're not muted. Yeah.
Okay, good. I just wanted to add something to the discussion. I was thinking about how early modern medicine used to be about the idea of creating an experience rather than actually offering healing. Things like bloodletting and leeches and the use of emetics and laxatives, where you sort of have this idea of salvation through suffering. And I wonder if that could tie into both the history of shapewear in general, but also specifically SKIMS, as we were discussing. And yeah.
What a beautiful question.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, the idea that it, yes, creates a feeling, even though it doesn't even though it's a placebo, you know, even though it's not really. Yeah, and maybe that's what it's. Yes, so in thinking like, what's the point of shapewear, Meredith? Maybe it's the creating of the feeling and then enabling you to create that image.
Yeah, and it forces the contrast of like, you're going to feel very hugged and different when you've got the shapewear on, I'd imagine. So then you automatically have that contrast between how you feel out of shapewear and how you feel in SKIMS.
It's so interesting though, because I'm thinking there's such a contradiction there though as well with SKIMS branding, because it is so much the notion of being comfortable.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't fit then with that, you know, with those other elements that you're, you know, so all the time there's these constant tensions that are at play with the messaging that they're putting out. You know, on the one hand, you're going to feel really sculpted and sucked in, and then on the other, you're going to be comfortable. It's like, I don't think that's possible.
Yeah, it's interesting that they do both shapewear and also like loungewear and like pajamas and stuff under the same branding.
I wonder who in the audience might have actually worn some SKIMS. I've worn Spanx and can attest they're not comfortable, not at all. Has anybody actually experienced, here we go, from Amy, it says, yeah, is it possible to be comfortable in light control? Oh.
No, it is. Sorry, hi.
It is. I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah, it is definitely. So I was just interested in I wear it. I don't wear SKIMS. Interestingly, I thought there's nowhere I'm going anywhere near that because my body shape is nothing like Kim's. And I'm finding it so fascinating when you're saying, yeah, it doesn't make you look any different. You might think you look different. And I actually genuinely feel that I do look different when I'm wearing it. So yeah, I will take another look in the mirror. I
think it does make us look a little different, but just not thinner. It makes us look smoother.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And when you were talking about the silhouette of it all, and you're also right, you know, some of it's incredibly painful. But that's what I meant. Light control can actually be fairly comfortable and reassuring. But I certainly agreed with a lot of the arguments you were making, Katie, in terms of the extreme contradictions between body positivity, yet at the same time you're trying to transform your body. So really, really fascinating. And both of you, Manon, as well, your stuff really interesting. And when I started to, so is Kanye particularly behind the misogyny of the contouring and the SKIMS and the painfulness of it all? So not questions.
Just I want to go back to the idea of comfortable. I think it's very interesting because with Kim Kardashian, you have always this democratization of being authentic, inauthentic, in fact. So everybody is knowing that nobody on Instagram, nobody is authentic, but everybody is selling like I'm authentic and so on. And so Kim just showing how she go to the red carpet with she was putting scotch at the beginning, she not have the right shapeware, so it's interesting. But with Kanye, what is very interesting is that he reshape her with the standard of high fashion. He tried to do that, but she stay what she is, but he takes the cultural codes of the high culture of the high fashion for doing that. But also what is interesting is he always compare himself to Warhol or people like that, just white man success, Henry Ford or people like that. But Andy Warhol is interesting because he made celebrities, and Kanye West made Kim Kardashian, and it's like maybe Warhol and Eddie Sedgwick. I think somebody is talking tomorrow about Kanye West and Andy Warhol as a parallel, but I think it's very interesting. And you have this in the high fashion realm. You can see that it's like Warhol, and she's just a figure, a silhouette, which is here, I think.
Yeah.
But
Pia Marchetti is going to talk tomorrow about Warhol and Kanye. Okay, look, I think we could go on for another hour at least talking about all of this, but we need to move on to the next session, which is called The Spectacular and the Spectacle. So these are 5-minute papers, so we'll all get to do something else soon. There were going to be 3, now there are just 2. So we're not going to hear now from KIRSTY Nolasco. We're going to hear first from Imogen Willetts and then from Kirsty Fairclough. So I'll introduce Imogen. Imogen's title is really nicely following on, I think, from the earlier paper about the Kardashian homes and interior designs. And it's Aesthetic Capitalism in Calabasas, Kardashian Parties as Experimental Marketing. So Imogen is a creative producer, a lecturer, and doing a PhD at Kingston School of Art, at Goldsmiths. Used to curate, does still curate the BA course at Kingston School of Art and Design. She previously worked at the Royal Academy of Arts, where she curated and produced the RA Lates. They are a series of immersive festivals inspired by art history, and she's fascinated by the complex roles that parties, nightlife and festivals play within culture and society. So over to Imogen.
Thank you so much for that intro. Let me just share my screen. Fantastic. Has that worked?
Yep, that looks fine to me.
Brilliant. Well, yeah, thank you so much for that intro. Just it really gets across that I have worked as a kind of practitioner and like producing, curating parties, and now moving on to do PhD in lecturing, which incorporates some of those things. So it's kind of aesthetics, consumer culture, immersive environments. They're all things that I'm really interested in, and I think that the Kardashians offers us such a rich text to kind of dive into and consider the kind of meaning of the various themes and the environments that they stage within their parties. So first off, I just thought, because this is obviously a very short kind of 5-minute talk, just to think about a neat categorization of what we see within those big kind of lavish Kardashian party celebrations. And I think what's really interesting is that it's basically a tool to create these thematic environments which are differentiated from the everyday work life of the home, and kind of legitimize different kind of behaviors and experiences. So thinking about sentimentality and spectacle, hedonism, like absurdity and playfulness, are all experiences which are enabled through these big, spectacular themed environments staged at their parties. So I've just, divided up into these three examples. So this notion of kind of nostalgia for previous Kardashian eras is one interesting trope that I'll talk briefly about. This kind of idea of fun morality and the kind of sociology of fun, and how that has some of the same ideas of kind of productivity behind it as the work ethic. And then lastly, when it all gets really weird with Stormy World and the kind of theming spectacle of selfhood that we see particularly in the first birthday parties of Stormy and North. So first up, we have this idea of Kardashian nostalgia, and I think basically that's where we see these kind of milestone birthday parties, most notably Kim's surprise 40th and Kris's 65th birthday that happened. So it's, using these kind of milestone birthdays to evoke kind of sentimentality. And what I think is really crucial here is it's constructing this narrative of economic, cultural, social progress. Because obviously we've seen the Kardashians develop from being a kind of affluent upper middle class American family to being billionaires over the course of, a decade. And I think that by revisiting these previous moments of their own personal history, it really establishes this narrative of progress and kind of economic, cultural, social progress. So for example, we have the recreation of every single one of Kim's childhood birthday parties at her 40th, and the most kind of spectacular example of this was rebuilding Tao's Vegas nightclub at her 40th as well. She was bought the same car that she received at her 16th birthday, again at her 40th. And then as well, hiring the childhood home that they all grew up in for Kris's 65th birthday, which you can see here. So a very kind of emotional and sentimental, experience that you can see. And again, just establishing this Kardashian narrative through revisiting these particular kind of touch points. So next up, we have this idea of fun morality. So, we talk a lot about the kind of Protestant work ethic that we see within the way that the Kardashians approach kind of beauty and fitness. And that's really kind of important to consider. But I think the flip side of that is that we also see this notion of kind of fun morality emerge, where it's really important to convey and produce this notion of hedonism, of fun, of pleasure, which we start to see kind of emerge in sociology in the 1950s. So I'll just read out this quote very quickly. Fun and play have assumed a new obligatory aspect. Boundaries formerly maintained between play and work break down. Work tends to be permeated with behaviour formerly confined to after work hours. Play, conversely, tends to be measured by standards of achievement previously applicable only to work. This development appears to be at marked variance to an older Puritan ethic, although the two are related. And I think what's really interesting as well about Kylie throwing her Barbie themed 21st birthday party back in 2018. So everything was bright pink, really kind of girly, referencing kind of bimbo culture a bit, like it's hyper feminine kind of production style. But then it's like these little details that the wait staff were wearing t-shirts with her Forbes billionaire cover on them. So it's kind of production and consumption and bimbo and business kind of all kind of intertwining. And so I think this idea of the sort of display and the production of fun is also part of this work play kind of boundary breakdown. And then, yeah, lastly, we have theming and the spectacle of selfhood. So what I have kind of observed is that the Kardashian sisters take, including Kylie Jenner, they take the first birthday party of their children incredibly seriously. And I think that we start to see these first birthday parties taking on the kind of iconography of a 16th, a super sweet 16th, or an 18th or a 21st birthday party, that there's like this coming of age, sort of notion within a child's first birthday party. So they are, very tightly kind of themed display of kind of spectacle of selfhood. So again, this is that kind of coming of age idea. And what we kind of see are these very hyperreal themed environments that center this, elaborate construction of selfhood. So obviously we see that most in Stormy World. So Stormy's first birthday party, it was inspired by Father Travis Scott's Astro World, and just all of these like stormy faces and shapes that was criticized very widely on social media for being narcissistic and disturbing. And there is definitely a kind of uncanny, nightmarish quality to it. And I think that broadly what we're seeing here, as an example within consumer culture, is how through postmodern consumption, it's a kind of attempt at re-enchantment. It's an attempt at finding magic. So a quote from a great paper about re-enchantment and postmodern consumerism talks about the emerging role of the symbolic in consumption processes, the notion of the spectacularization of life, and the creation of hyperreal. So I think that, how otherworldly, how sort of magical and absurd these parties are, as well as being kind of coming of age moments for their first birthday parties, I think are great examples of this tendency within postmodern consumption to try and find or using consumption to try and kind of capture magic and mystery and re-enchantment. And just have one more slide of just some more images of Stormy World, because it is just so kind of visually brilliant and wild. And again, you just see how many little stormy iconographies you see within it. And yes, that's it. Thank you very much for listening. And if there are any questions at the end, I'm very happy to take those.
Thank you so much, Imogen. Absolutely fantastic. I think that if I ever do a Kimposium 3, everyone only gets 5 minutes, because you packed such a lot in there. Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks. Yeah. All right. We are going on to our final paper for the day. Now, Seb, you're going to play this, aren't you? So our final speaker, KIRSTY FAIRCLOUGH, I spoke wrongly before. Katherine Appleford's not our only honorary Kimposium presence here, because KIRSTY also presented at the very first Kimposium. She, I don't think, is here in person tonight, so won't be able to answer questions afterwards, but she has sent a video that Seb's going to play. And while that's being lined up, I will tell you the title and a bit about KIRSTY. So the title of this talk is Kim Kardashian's Private Island, Pandemic Celebrity and Digital Modes of Being. KIRSTY is a reader in screen studies at the School of Digital Arts at Manchester Met University, and her specific areas of study are celebrity studies, audio-visual mediation of popular culture, and she's very much interested in the life and legacy of Prince. She's published widely on popular culture. One of her book titles that caught my eye is The Legacy of Mad Men, Cultural History, Intermediality and American Television. And she's got a forthcoming book called Beyonce, Celebrity, Feminism and Popular Culture. And very interestingly, she is also chair of the Manchester Jazz Festival. So Seb, if you're ready just to play Kirsty's video.
Hello everyone, I am Dr. Kirsty FAIRCLOUGH from the School of Digital Arts, or SODA, at Manchester Metropolitan University. My paper is entitled Kim Kardashian's Private Island, Pandemic Celebrity and Digital Modes of Being. In October of 2020, Kim Kardashian announced on her social media platforms that she had flown her family and friends to a private island to celebrate her 40th birthday with the following statement. After 2 weeks of multiple health screens and asking everyone to quarantine, I surprised my closest inner circle with a trip to a private island where we could pretend things were normal for just a brief moment in time. The post quickly became a much distributed meme, with individuals and organisations sharing photographs of their own, often more menacing private islands at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. This moment in Kim Kardashian's digital existence and its widely agreed tone deafness speaks to the central question of the function of the Kardashians' particular brand of celebrity in a time of global crisis. This very short paper will throw up some ideas about relatability, spectacle, cultural sway, and ultimately the limits of the Kardashians in the COVID era. Many cultural critics and scholars have been asking the question over the past 18 months, what is the point of celebrity? Perhaps one of the social impacts of coronavirus and its dismantling of the cult of celebrity. As is well established, celebrities, of course, have been ambassadors of meritocracy. They represent the ultimate pursuit of wealth through talent, charm, and labour. But the notion of this kind of class mobility, of course, has disintegrated when we've been in lockdown situations like we have in the past 18 months. And that difference between them and us has been never been more obvious. The past 18 months have created an examining of the function of celebrities and whether or not celebrity culture actually deserves to exist at all. And I think the Kardashians have provided us with some excellent examples of this over recent months. When Kim Kardashian posted the now infamous tweet about her private island trip, the public quickly went into rage lol mode. Social media users paired Kardashian's photo captions with images of cursed paradises, the Fire Festival, a Game of Thrones wedding hall, a midsummer ceremony. The list goes on, and some of them were absolutely brilliant. Other responses to the Kardashians' holiday photographs expressed deep offence. One tweet with over 4,500 likes said, "You know what would have felt normal for me, Kim? Not having to say goodbye to my mother over FaceTime as she was dying of COVID. Rubbing this in our faces is cruel and clueless." Another tweet, actually from the rock artist Pete Frampton, stated, "Are you that insensitive that you don't realise this is not what the majority of people during the worst COVID spike yet want to hear? People are going to food banks, not private islands." Less than a week after Kim posted her pictures, her sister Kendall faced backlash for throwing a Halloween party with 100 people in Hollywood. In a video, from which this is a still, you can see Kendall blow out candles on a cake held by a masked server who appears to move his head away from her outflow of droplets. Then soon after that, Kourtney Kardashian endorsed a baseless theory on social media that surgical masks, of course, we know they are a cheap and effective way of curbing COVID-19, cause cancer, according to her. These connected, unfortunate moments in the Kardashians' digital lives started to provide us with some evidence that a certain kind of celebrity may become indeed obsolete during a pandemic. And I think more than any other, the private island moment reveals the limitations of the Kardashians' cultural sway. Clearly, what Kim was trying to do was to convey a recognition of her own position in the world when she released the island photographs. She was going out of her way to acknowledge her privilege in, being able to actually plan a celebration that, as she put it, was out of reach for most people. Yet her efforts to justify herself in this way only served to enrage the public further. Of course, there were safety measures put in place for the trip. But what this did prove, and the posting of this on social media, was that it severely undermined the kind of narrative of we're all in this together that the family have been very carefully trying to portray on Keeping Up with the Kardashians. You know, popular culture has always rewarded Kardashian style spectacle, perhaps because that spectacle has been kind of tempered with a kind of bickering banality that we see showcased on their reality TV show. I think there was a sense that this was still going to work, this old formula, and that there was a way to kind of balance this sense of spectacle and her sense of kind of being just like us. But clearly, her calculations were misjudged. So, you know, as Rojek has said, you know, how does this disrupt the celebrity cycle? How does this disrupt the Kardashian celebrity cycle? How do they leverage their capital anymore? Perhaps their neoliberal post-feminist game has actually faded now. The pandemic has been, of course, so deeply and universally disruptive that flaunting one's escape from it has really triggered more disgust than anything else. This really leaves the Kardashians kind of stranded on their own digital island for now. What are these celebrities if not to flaunt their luxury? What do they mean anymore? And perhaps the answer is that perhaps the Kardashians actually mean of far, far less than when the pandemic actually began. Just to throw up some ideas there, and I'd be very happy to discuss this further at some other point. Thanks.
Okay, well, thanks, Kirsty. Thanks very much. Just even though you're not here, thank you. My thank you is on the record for our YouTube videos later on. So I want to open it now to questions. Kirsty obviously isn't here to answer any, but let's call it a discussion. We can absolutely ask Imogen some questions. I thought, you know, there's so much there to talk about, those incredible birthday parties, etc. And we can even, we've got time to also just talk generally about the day, about how maybe about how you think Kirsty's paper actually sat with the papers about last night's Met Gala, which I think really showed that the Kardashians are, and celebrity in general is far from, let's say, over or irrelevant now. So do put your hands up. Imogen, I wonder what you thought about Kirsty's argument that they're over and now live on their own digital island.
Yeah, it's difficult. I think it's like with so many things from the pandemic, there was this idea that, an idea of what changed in 2020 would be permanent when it came to celebrity, office work. Yeah, all of these things were supposedly over. And I think that what we're seeing, and to your point about the Met Gala last night, is they are so deeply, deeply embedded into our culture, our society, our understanding of self, that it's like a temporary blip. And yeah, I just remember the cringiness, as I'm sure everyone does, the cringiness of the Imagine video from early on in the pandemic. I mean, that was the moment that people started questioning the role of celebrity COVID. But yeah, it seems like we're in a very different place now, I think. And that kind of decadence and excess has sort of come back.
Yeah, I agree with you. And of course, these are not the first blips that the Kardashians have had in terms of their likability, if you like. Yeah. We have a few minutes. Maggie, yes, go ahead.
I would have loved to ask this to both lecturers, actually, after hearing the other one. But Imogen, I was wondering if you've heard of the party adjacent news that seems to have led to Kylie revealing a second pregnancy recently. And if you have, do you have any early thoughts? Because I know it's quite recent and a little bit hearsay, but yeah.
Oh, well, I heard that she was pregnant again, but I don't know, did she do a kind of performative pregnancy announcement? What was the reveal?
There was actually, weirdly enough, like someone on TikTok who followed her very closely ended up like looking at the coverage of her birthday party this year, which was the opposite of the spectacles that you talked about. It seems like it was like a quiet, sedate, you know, family affair just for close friends, and like no one was posting any photos of it online, which is, you know, completely different to just parties they've had in the past in general and the parties they've had during the pandemic so far. And people, I think the actual sleuthing happened from the like specific set of nail acrylics that she was wearing that were different in like recent swimwear publicity posts, and then in like the stories of like her holding glasses with her sister, that led like one person on TikTok to be like, I think she's pregnant. And then like lo and behold, like what, like I don't even know, days, weeks later, she feels she's pregnant.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah, really, really interesting. And I think it makes me think of things like the Easter eggs and the hidden clues that you get in things like Taylor Swift music videos, and this idea of like very purposeful mystery and intent is kind of embedded into like the structure of those, yeah, kind of cultural texts. And I think what's really interesting, I mean, touched on very, very briefly, but the comparison with early 2000s celebrity culture, because I think in the early 2000s, the question was around someone like Paris, like, is she really stupid? Is she putting it on? Is this all a performance? That was the kind of core question at that time. Yeah, very misogynistic, but that was the question. And I think that we've evolved into the question now being how self-aware, how purposeful, how much intent is there going on behind all of those things. I mean, I don't know if this is me being very cynical, but I even wondered with the kimono name change to SKIMS, was that, you know, an intentional marketing ploy? You know, she did her public apology, like you never quite know. And so I think that that line that we now have, it's just questioning, yeah, intent, purpose, and the extent to which they're self-aware of what they're doing.
Yeah, totally. I think just going off what you're saying, like this one also, it's totally unclear. Was this an intentional crack in the facade of the controlled narrative? Because Kylie knows how to hide a pregnancy. She's done it before while maintaining social media presence. So was this an accident, or was it, you know, she's leaving breadcrumbs like Taylor Swift for the followers she knows she has to find? Ooh. Yeah, thank you so much.
Great question. Thank you. There was someone with their hand up, but I think it's gone down again. So that's all right. Got a couple of comments in the in the chat here. First of all, I think MJ Corey, I think you've got a little bit of fan mail there. Yes, that is MJ Corey from Kardashian Colloquium. And they will be presenting in our final session with Norrie's Black Book, in case you hadn't realised yet. So that's going to be a wonderful grand finale. Then Amy Mitchell, we've got saying birthday parties / private islands, copious consumption. Will the sustainability agenda curtail celebrity / Kardashians? That's an amazing question, isn't it? They do certainly acknowledge sustainability questions occasionally. We know that Kim is perhaps a vegan. She's perhaps been a vegan for quite a while, but yeah, I don't know. Does anyone want to say anything about that? And so leaders said, interesting point, Amy, they talk about sustainability regularly but never act accordingly. And some examples there, yeah, balloons in the air, private jets and islands, etc. I wonder if they think they're being sustainable in some way.
Yeah, and I think the interiors, like the Kim's kind of minimalist interior aesthetic, I think is also, to your point, it's kind of performative, anti-consumption. You know, it's like looking as though you're a minimalist consumer, you know, but you know the reality is something very different. So I think at a very surface level they might co-opt some of those messages, but yeah, whether it will go deeper than that, who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm reading out for people who maybe can't see the chat or won't be able to in the recordings. Adrienne said the veganism is definitely also performative and convenient for a heavily diet-focused person, of course. Yes. And I'm not sure Kim cooked vegan when she appeared on Paris's latest show, the cooking show. I can't remember what she cooked. Anyway, Amy said today was great. Thank you to you, Amy, and thank you to everyone. Unless anyone has something they'd really like to say, in which case put your hand up straight away, then please go and either enjoy your days or enjoy your evenings wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for contributing to a wonderful, wonderful day. It's my best work day that I've had in about 100 years, or maybe since the first Kimposium. Thank you, everyone, and see you tomorrow.